Well, hello everyone. This is Mark Turi again. It's great to be back after a couple of weeks where I had some schedule changes. So I definitely apologize to those who I had to cancel the uh, our stream on the 18th of December and the 4th of December, which of course were Wednesday evening streams. I apologize for that. And I've also, of course, moved now my stream to Sundays at 9 p.m. Basically, it works better for me to stream now than it does on Saturdays. And because I have a bit of a busy schedule in the next couple months, I won't be streaming on Wednesdays, just on Sundays. But that will only be temporary for the next few months. Eventually, I think I'm going to go back to a different schedule and stream probably at least 2 or more days a week if I can. So until that time, until somewhere in the spring, maybe late spring, I will be on every single week now, Sundays at 9 p.m. my time, which would be um, the UK time plus one. So that's 8 p.m. UK time. And then that's, of course, 12 p.m. on the Pacific Coast time and 3 p.m. Pacific. One of our Mark Apostles is here, Shell, the one with cats. How are you, Shell? Good to see you here. I appreciate you coming on. As I was just explaining briefly, just my small time schedule here is only temporary. I think I'm gonna go back on, a sort of 2 day a week schedule like we were doing before in a few months, and also that I had to cancel two streams, two Wednesday streams last month. So I apologize for that. Um, Please like this video if you haven't. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not already. And on my channel yesterday, so Saturday at 9 o'clock, I did a stream with Clearwater Chad in which we play Mortal Enemies. It's just some characters that we play just to sort of lighten up, from some of the heavier subjects that we talk about here. Um, and we've got Pete Panzerotti, who of course is the character I do with a nice Chicagoland accent, and Griff Calzone, which of course is played by Clearwater Chad. And yeah, we did about 45 minutes yesterday evening. So I hope you go on to that, and I hope you also like that video. Please, of course, subscribe if you haven't already. And we have another Mark Postle here today, Irish Mart. It's good to see you, both you and Shell. I sort of send memes to Shell at least once a day, so it's good to keep up with her. But Irish, I haven't spoken to you since the last time I streamed. So I hope on your end, especially also Shell and anyone else who's watching, I hope that you all had a wonderful holiday season. I hope you spent it with those that you love. I do know what it's like to spend the holidays alone because the last couple years that I've been living abroad, I haven't really been able to see that much of my family. So I do understand, being alone can be tough. Holidays can be hard. But of course, I wish everyone had a very happy holiday and also a very happy new year into 2025. And we're going to sort of touch on this stream. Is this going to be looking at the busy last couple of weeks since I last streamed and what's been going on, not only in the world, and this is not, again, not going to be political, anything like that. It's more about current events. And in addition to that, of course, we had some stuff going on in the Scientology critic world, that was pretty impactful and important, I think, or at least seminal. And I sort of wanted to give my thoughts on a few of that. So as we let people roll in, I'm just going to take a drink, which is water, by the way, beautiful fresh water, which I'm spilling everywhere. When you load up My water bottle was completely and utterly full, so of course there's water everywhere. Water, water everywhere. Not a drop to drink, which I think is Moby Dick. Or if you're a Simpsons fan, it's water, water everywhere. So let's all have a drink. Um, but I digress. Irish Mart here says it was superb, and this year is going to be an awesome year. My New Year's resolution. Yeah, that's another one. Shell Irish, whoever's watching now on the live, if you're backtracking or you're watching on the replay, share your New Year's resolutions with me. I will say, over 10 years ago, I made a New Year's resolution to never make New Year's resolutions again. And so far, I've stuck to my guns. So I don't make them because 10, 15 years ago, I think it was in like 2009 or 10, I said no mas, no more. And I haven't done it. But I do hope that this year is better, although it has started off a little rough, I will say, when we get to our current events. And again, no politics, just current events. I will always want to um, stress that because, of course, you could alienate people, and it's not what I want to do on this channel. I want to, bring us together and so on. But yeah, one of the most interesting things, well, at least it happened to me, was I did end up going back to Canada for 2 weeks, which was really, really nice. I moved here to Hungary in September of 2021, and that's a long time ago. That's 2.5 years ago, 3.5 years ago, excuse me. I guess it will be 4 years next time around. And yeah, I haven't been back. Of course, I FaceTime with my family. I sort of see them and know what's going on, but I'm still quite a ways away from them. And so I flew back, and thankfully my flights were good. They were on time. I love Austrian Airline. It's a great airline. Surprisingly, the airline I took, Air Canada, which I normally don't like, was actually quite good. And it's just a very, very long flight. It was 10 hours one way, 8.5 hours the other way. But once I got, home, so to speak, or to my former home, it was nice to see my family, nice to hang out with them. I got some good gifts. My brother-in-law gave me scratch and wins, and I won $50, which was nice. And then he gave me another package of scratch and wins, and I won $10. So I won 60 Canadian dollars, of free money. And then I did that. I also, by the way, just wanted to let you guys know I have a ring light now, which I wanted for a while. About 4 years ago, when I was living in Canada, I actually bought a ring light because I was going to do something like this back then during COVID. I was going to do, or maybe it was actually, maybe it was 2021 I bought it. But I was going to do something like this. I was going to do history lectures and so forth online. It just never materialized. But I bought a ring light, and of course, I threw that in my suitcase. Now I don't have to buy one. Now I've got one. It's working very well. I hope you guys can, notice the difference. Um, I also brought home a pair of headphones, which I hope to use someday. They haven't been working yet, so I've got to clue in to find out how that works. But I'm pretty happy with the stuff. I took back some clothes. I had a Nintendo Switch Mini, whatever it's called, and I took that back. So I've been more than happy. Couple watches, things like this. I will say, I there was some like food that we don't get here that I got at home, like fast food stuff, and I'm a big fan of Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper, but I also don't drink anything with sugar. So Dr. Pepper Zero is phenomenal. I drank uh, two-liter bottles of that in 2 weeks. So I don't think that's good for my weight or my waist or my whatever, but I don't care. It was awesome. And yeah, so certain things that, of course, we just can't get here. We get Dr. Pepper in Hungary, but of course, it has sugar. On the other hand, we do get a lot of Fanta here, like that has no sugar, like the orange. There's a cherry, there's a grape, which I really love, which we can't get back home. So, it's a trade off. But that was nice. The other thing was Um, the 25th of December was also the start of Hanukkah. So today, Hanukkah and Christmas were on the same day. And it happens, once in a while. I'm not sure what the frequency is or the consistency is of that, or how they overlap, but that was really nice. And in my home, my mom's place in Canada, we have a menorah, so we put up a Christmas tree. We put our presents under that, which I know that Christmas is obviously a very Christian holiday if you are Christian, but in most of the Western world, so to speak, or a lot of the world, it is kind of secularized with the tree and the gift giving and whatnot. Obviously, there is a religious component, which of course I'm hoping our Christian friends did have a good peaceful Christmas, because in the end it is a religious holiday for Christians. But that sort of secular component, my family practices that, and then we lit the candles, which was really nice. And yeah, it was great that it was fell on the same time, because last year um, it was like early December, and I remember too I couldn't light all the candles because I was sick with the flu. Um, so that was a little bit not good, but I think I got the first like two or three candles out, and then I just got too sick. And that was like first, second week of December. So usually it happens around then. Usually it's first, second, even third week of December ish. So it was nice when what coincides with Christmas. So that was really, really cool. I will say it was very, very cold in Canada. The temperature Celsius was between -10 and -20 every single day. Went out a few days, didn't go out most of the time, and it snowed a lot. And I, you know, um, have a big coat that I bought in London, so I was warm and everything. But man, like, whew, it was like a punch in the face for me when stepped outside, especially stepped outside of the airport when I flew in a couple weeks back, and whew, like, it was for me, it was a surprise, let me tell you. I'm sort of quoting Pete Panzerotti, "Let me tell you, it was cold, it was cold." So it was minus whatever it was that day, 5, 8, whatever, and it was just cold. A lot of rain, a lot of snow. um, I ended up not doing much, which I think was great. I unfortunately wasn't able to see any friends or really go downtown Toronto, which I'm told has changed and isn't very good. I do get notices from the Jewish community, and unfortunately, there's certain areas and places in Toronto that it's actually dangerous for Jewish people to go to, which I never thought of in my life. And I really wanted to go to a couple of these places, but I'm not visibly quote unquote Jewish, but you never know. So that was weird. A lot of people were complaining about rising crime rates and just an overall dip in quality of life in Canada, which again, I'm almost 42 years old. And, up until COVID, we had our complaints like everyone else does. But in the end, there was a kind of optimism around Canada that's kind of deflated, which I think is really sad. It happens everywhere, I think. COVID and the lockdowns and everything really, really hurt a lot of businesses, and it's very hard to, recuperate. And also misinformation was spread on all sides. The should and should haves now that we know, a couple years out, and it's really divided people. I will say, I think it was last week, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, resigned, and horrible approval rating people in his party and in his caucus were resigning and becoming independents in Parliament. And the Atlantic Liberal Caucus, he's a Liberal Party, decided to turn against him, so he is going to resign. And most of my family at least my mom is, and a lot of our family are Liberal Party members, have been Liberal Party members and voters for their whole life. My mom is a boomer, so she's been voting for a while, and they're just upset, and so there'll be some change, of course. in that space, I guess. Um, Other than that, I definitely do want to acknowledge um, the forest fires that have been happening in Los Angeles. For some of you, you may know that I lived in Los Angeles from January of 2009 until June of 2011. When I was there, I was enrolled at junior college, which might be called community college for others outside of America. It was called Santa Monica College in Santa Monica, California. And I lived in Santa Monica in West Los Angeles for 2.5 years. I had been to Los Angeles 3 times previously. I had been to Los Angeles maybe 6 times after 2011 because I have friends that live there. I protested Scientology there, and I'm just very, very saddened because there's whole areas of that city that are. It literally looks like somebody dropped the bomb, and people have lost, homes, have been burnt to the ground, and I think 10 people or something, unfortunately, have lost their lives. So I don't know if there's any charities out there that people can donate to. I know the Humane Society in the Los Angeles area, especially in Pasadena, which has been hit hard, also is taking donations because there are a lot of stray pets now whose owners unfortunately couldn't take their pets, and so there's a lot of that, and there's also a lot of restaurants that need help with donations so they can serve free meals. So if you go online and you just Google anything about that, as far as Los Angeles, local charities with the fire response. Please do that if you can. Uh, you know, $10, $20, whatever you can helps because I know Los Angeles can be a controversial place for some people, but it's a city where people live, and there's a lot of people that have lost literally everything. And as I said, being my former home, there's an area called Pacific Palisades, which was right next to Santa Monica where I lived, and I I know Pacific Palisades. I've been there a lot, and I know the areas in which have been affected. And it's like just watching them now on the news, like it's unbelievable because, of course, I remember taking the bus to those places, driving around those places with my rental car, and now they're pretty much gone. And it's not good, but at least those brave firefighters are doing their thing, and any little money from donations can help. Hello, Power Lines to Paralyze. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. And then, of course, in the Scientology world, I know a lot of us were pretty surprised because I didn't really have that much current news, but we know that Mike Rinder, the former, I guess, executive director of the Office of Special Affairs International, he passed away just after New Year's at the age of 69. And that took me by surprise because I guess I was out of the loop a little bit on his condition. I know that he was diagnosed with cancer maybe a year or two ago, and they had done, pledge drives online for his cancer treatment. And again, I don't have the details on why he passed away. Maybe his cancer came back. Maybe I don't know. But certainly, I know that there's been a lot of drama between the Aftermath Foundation and the SBTV Foundation that happened last year. But in the end, I never met Mike. I never had the opportunity, but I did, of course, watch the aftermath, as I'm sure many of you did. And I read, um, actually, I should say, I listened to Mike's book, which is from last year before, which is on Audible. You can get an audiobook, which he reads. And, there was a lot of things in there that were very, very cathartic. And I will say, that one of the things as a Scientologist that Mike Rinder exposed to a lot of us ex Scientologists, which is extremely important, um, especially to combating Scientology, and the Church of Scientology, other than the abuses, which of course is what the aftermath was for, but the fact that there is no OT9 and there is no OT10, that Mike had insider information. And I know for some who have never been in Scientology, it might be a little hard to sort of understand why that would be so tragic. And maybe it isn't, by the way. I'm just making a generality here. But for those who find it a bit hard, like, oh, of all the things Mike did, why would that be the one thing that I'm talking about now? Is because when you're in the Church of Scientology, when you're a dedicated Scientologist, your life, your purpose is to go up the bridge to total freedom, which I've discussed on this channel before when we talked about reform in the church, and we've talked about um, the different levels that you go through, all the hoops that you have to go through. I can also do more about that if you'd like in the future. But when you look at the bridge to total freedom, on the right side is processing, left side is training, on the right side is processing. And you'll see from OT 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 that they're basically TBD, to be determined, to be announced later. And, there's only up to OT8. And so that realization, which Mike gave to us, um, it had been speculated for years, right? But the fact that he told the story about, patent any broker and so forth, um, it was a very kind of mixed emotions because on one hand, I felt kind of relieved in one hand. Um, I felt that it was also kind of a joke. So I felt relief. I laughed, and then I kind of felt really sad for the people who are still in, who have this kind of wishful thinking to these levels that they don't exist. And I felt relieved that it didn't exist. I felt relieved that I'm not going up the bridge anymore. I felt it felt humorous to me, like, oh my God, like what a like I just got taken for a ride. You have to laugh. But then, of course, I did feel some sorrow and compassion for the people who are still in, who don't know any different. And it's mixed, right? It's a mixed emotion. So I just want to say, rest in peace to Mike Rinder. Whatever people's beliefs they have on the Aftermath Foundation, the SPTV Foundation, please, put that aside just for a second, because as someone who was, in Scientology for 3 years, someone who believed that OT 9 and 10 were on their way, and really believed that OT 9 and 10 could still exist until Mike Rinder made that, known, which I think was maybe less than 10 years ago, certainly less than 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 8, 7 years ago. Um, it was pretty remarkable, and it's sad because obviously he leaves his wife and son and stepson, and it's tough. It's hard. It's really really hard. He was a giant in the space, and he will be missed. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because that happened a few days after New Year. And again, what I will get from Mike is just his book was really great, and he gave us this information, these stories about Hubbard, and especially about there being no OT9, OT10, and nothing above that because you know Pat Broker didn't remember, and it's like that simple, and it's it's kind of insane, and that's why I have to laugh sometimes. It's not a good thing, but you kind of have to laugh. How can you process this, these things anyway? There's a lot to process over the holiday. Again, with the fires with Mike, um, and then whatever. So anyway, glad to be back, and I want to sort of lighten it up a little bit and say that although I am making this new schedule, I think it's going to work for me a little bit better until we get back to 2 times a week, which we will get back to, Just give me a couple of months, everyone. So what I'm going to do is very similar today. I just wanted to do a recap. I'm going to still do some recaps and stuff, uh, as I continue to talk today, right now. But I will put up like I did before on our for our Wednesdays last year. Of course, I put up a poll between a couple of different choices on what you'd like to talk me to talk about. I'm going to do that for next Sunday. So by the end of the week, please look on my community tab on my page because there will be a poll, usually two, maybe three choices of things that are just on my mind. We'll go with the one that people vote for the most, and I'll talk about it. And on the last Sunday of every month, which this week, or this month, I should say, will be on what, the 26th of January. So in 2 weeks' time. So we'll do a poll for next week, the 19th. I'll prepare either a PowerPoint or some kind of lecture, so it'll be a little bit more guided and not just sort of thoughts. So it'll be one or the other. I don't think it takes a long time to do a PowerPoint, but I like to think of the topic. Then I've got to, do some research. I've got to do some editing. I've got to make sure that the PowerPoints are presentable. And of course, sometimes what happens is there's formatting issues, which I don't like, and that's happened a couple times these past few months, where going from for whatever reason, when you put a PowerPoint into Google Slides, it misformats, and then it's very difficult to do. And I don't like that because it's kind of unprofessional, and when things are cut off, it's not great to sort of try to build the channel and be more professional. Why I have a ring light, why I have a microphone, and so forth. And I'm sort of trying to get better quality out of these videos, not just for new people, but of course for my already existing subscribers, because I am trying to do educational based material, and there's a lot out there, so I have to sort of compete with that, which of course I don't mind doing, but I just need to improve my quality. So I'm thinking, yeah, I think I'll do something like that. And again, please always use the community tab. Always use chat like this to see, is there something that you want to learn about? We've done a lot of political philosophies and different types of political philosophies. I think we're going to steer into a different direction for the 26th. I think I'll do something history based, maybe of a war or of an era or something like this, which I think would be just very interesting. Of course, my wheelhouse is usually Central Europe, late modern history, but kind of feeling around the Latin American vibes. I don't know why. Latin America, Cold War. So maybe we'll look at something like that, something a little bit out of my wheelhouse, just to give it some gravity or some presentation. We can see what we go from there. I love the Cold War, by the way. The Cold War era gives us a ton of stuff to talk about, for better or for worse, of course. And there were a lot of things that happened, and so I'm thinking about that. The highest viewed um, video on my channel right now is my Twilight Zone. So I'd like to talk more about the Twilight Zone too, and I'd like to talk about some of my favorite episodes from certain television shows. So also to get into pop culture. So I really want to talk about The Simpsons, some of my favorite episodes from The Simpsons. I'd also really like to talk about Star Trek. I love talking about Star Trek. I still have to finish that Dominion War thing, which I think is going to take a bit of time to do a Dominion War PowerPoint, but it's going to happen this year. Maybe talk about my favorite episodes of The Next Generation or Deep Space Nine or other shows, because those tend to get also some pretty good traction. But I also will do history, so we'll mix between history and pop culture, which I think is really good. I mean, I'm a nerd and I like my nerdy stuff. History can be very nerdy topic as well. Huckleberry, pork chop, Calhoun, Shoal. Sorry you're late. It's okay. Rather be late than not at all, I guess, right? Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Again, just going over a few things for the future on my channel. You can start at the beginning. You can watch on the replay, but I do very much appreciate that you're here, Huckleberry. So yeah, so I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll, look at things like that. I have an endless list of television shows, movies that I enjoy. And then there's no there's no end to historical events and dramas and people and so forth. I might even do historical biographies. Why not just pick someone? We talked about Franz Joseph the First. Maybe I'll do one on him, or so forth. It's a lot of this stuff I know people like, even if it's historical review from stuff you might have learned in high school or whatnot. But I know a lot of people like that. um, yeah. Other than that, again, I just wanted to come on to say hello and apologize again for December 4th, December 18th, because my weekdays are now, I'm spending them writing, continuing to write my thesis. Those days I was exhausted by 9 p.m. I also had some other stuff going on too. I had to take a call with someone who could only do it at one particular time, this kind of nonsense. But as I say, no fear, please. And I wasn't trying to ignore anybody or brush anybody off. And I'll be continuing on this, this time at this day. Excuse me. Yes, more Star Trek, definitely more. Um, yeah, I definitely think. Oh, the other thing was, I think it was the 3rd of January was the 32nd anniversary of the airing of the pilot of Deep Space Nine. So I love that show, as you guys know. I probably put together some of my favorite episodes for that. The next generation in 2 years is going to be 40, so it's 38 years in September when it aired. Tried to get through Voyager. That I didn't. I got through Voyager once. I've tried it again, and I've gotten into season 2 or 3, and I can't do it. Um, so I started watching Futurama. Don't hate me, which does have a lot of interesting Star Trek references, by the way, including the Church of Trek and an episode where the original cast comes back as heads to I don't know, to team up with Fry and them. Um, so there's always some good references there. But Star Trek is one of those things where the relevancy, it's still relevant today as it was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on. I don't like the new stuff, so whatever, but at least old Trek from at least the 60s to the 90s, it's so relevant. So we'll do some of that. I do also want to get into some more Twilight Zone stuff because there was actually there was one episode, and I don't know if I want to spoil it necessarily now, but there was one episode after I compiled my list when I was like, why the heck didn't I not, look at this episode, because it's a really interesting one. I'll just give you guys the name. You can look it up if you want. It's called The Mirror, with Peter Falk, Columbo, which I don't know why I didn't mention it. But then there's also some of those bigger ones that people like, To Serve Man, and whatever, that I also want to talk about too, because I didn't really talk about probably the most popular of episodes. Um, I just talked about my own favorites, but I would love to talk more about some of those bigger ones, the ones that sort of everyone knows, the Terror at 20,000 feet, or Nightmare at 20,000 feet. One of them is The Simpsons, and one of them is Twilight Zone, and I can never know which one it is. It's a Good Life, um, Time Enough at Last, which I mentioned with the glasses. So yeah, there's a bunch that we can take a look at, and look over, and things like this that I'll do more stuff for. And again, I'll probably do somewhere maybe around 6 or 7 of my favorite uh, Deep Space Nine and TNG episodes. I won't do Voyager or Enterprise. I'll do the original series, but that's probably about it. Um, and I don't know what else. Maybe books. I don't know. We all like books. I did mention that they're one of my earlier episode. We talked about books before, so we can kind of go through that and look at all that stuff. So anyway, just a short one today. I'm not totally done right now, but I don't think we're going to be an hour, just because it's just a recap. Um, but to sort of conclude, I am back, and December was a bit busy, but I'm very happy with the past few months, I've been getting a lot of traction, as I mentioned, with my with our the PowerPoints that I did on the Twilight Zone is over 1,000 views. The one on Russia and Russian minorities is over 600 views. And although subscribers are at 133, they haven't really grown too much. I still have quite a few um, more things that I have to do and more things to participate. I would like to still want to go on with Aaron. So if anybody has Aaron Smith Levin's email address, please remind him that I want to go on. I'll go on again with Marilyn and probably some other things. So I am going to try to grow more, so to get my viewership up. But at the same time, I'm very, very happy for everyone who comes here. We've had at least seven, if not more, people on now, which to me is, seven more than I would ever hope for. So, for me to have this group of people here, our regulars that are here, of course, I tease and call them Mark Apostles. But it's definitely good, and I'm glad everyone's comes back on and wishes me well and likes my content. So I'll going to keep doing them in a more consistent manner. And as I said, also temporary. I will go back to 2 day two at least two streams. I might even do three. I'm not sure. Let me just see here. So Huckleberry. The lies about OT 9 and 10 are much more serious than a number of people may realize because it's a form of spiritual abuse. Absolutely. Yep. Spiritual abuse can be emotionally devastating. Yeah, believe me, I get it. Again, I've tried to heal and come over that with Mike's information, but yeah, it's hard. I mean, again, it's that mix of sadness, um, feeling like you've been taken advantage of, feeling betrayed and hurt, having to laugh out of just exuberance and whatever, and just to try to keep sane, you have to keep your humor up. So yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. It's horrible. And if they do come out, like if Mike has had said, maybe Miscavige is just inventing them and has been inventing them since 1989, which is when, or 1987, which is when OT8 came out. He's going to charge thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and it probably can only be done on the free ones. So who knows? They might have to upgrade that into a bigger ship and whatever. So hopefully that doesn't happen and people see the light and come out of it and understand the history. But with Scientologists, it's hard because you are prevented from information. It goes back to Steve Hassan's BITE model: behavior control, information control, thought control, and I think it's emotional control. Yeah, emotional control. And so that information control is, they get you scared about going online, and of course, unless someone is questioning Scientology, they're not going to read Mike's book. They're not going to, you know, get this information or this story. And even if they did, they'd laugh in your face. Right now you could go to your local org and you could have a poster that says there is no OT 9 to 10, and people would look at it and they'd laugh at you. But little do they know, right? So it's what they call a double-edged sword. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Huckleberry. It's not just, well, there isn't any OT 9 to 10. It's a ruse. Haha, it's abusive. And that's what Scientology is. Scientology is extremely abusive. And of course their abusives are emotional, spiritual, and so forth. So yeah, it's a tough one. I do want to take a look at other Scientology things as well. I contacted Holly, the Scientology geek, late last year. I'd like to go on her channel and simul-stream with her because she is very interested in how the tech works and the certain aspects of it, which I think are interesting for some people who are never in. On one hand, we can say, "Oh, the tech is BS and who cares and whatever." But if you're sort of a methodological type person, if you're a person who likes to get into the nitty gritty of things, I actually do think trying to understand it is not frivolous. It actually has a purpose because in the end, nobody really understands it. But it's interesting to me when never ins want to get into that meaty, gritty part of the tech. for out of interest because they kind of have to make sense of it, and we all have to do that in in the world. We have to make sense of it. We have to rationalize. Otherwise, how can other people be in Scientology if it's just a scam? They have to get something out of it, which I do say some people do get stuff out of it. It's subjective, but there is a little bit that you can get out of it. But, let's look at that. So I'm going to do some tech stuff as well. And I got a lot, to do and a lot to sort of put out this year. And Pete Anderson, there you are. I don't know, Pete, what area of California you are in, but I mentioned earlier about the fires in Los Angeles. I hope that hasn't affected you or anyone you love. Certainly, I have a lot of friends in LA who are affected in some way. Um, but yeah, no problem. Catch it on the replay. Drop me a message on the replay. Like and subscribe, of course, or if you haven't already. And yeah, please, in conclusion to all this, just know that I'm back. Know that I'm going to do my best to keep this up on a continuing basis. Obviously, life happens, but this seems to be a good day and a good time. uh, good for our Pacific, coast, East Coast, and so forth. I apologize if anyone's in Australia. I don't know what it's like back then, or anyone in Russia. It might be too late now, but unfortunate with time zones. Something has to give, unfortunately. But it seems to be quite good, and yeah, in the end, I'm quite happy with the stuff that I want to do. Um, so just to make a brief conclusion about everything we talked about today. I hope everyone did have a wonderful holiday, whether you celebrate whatever holiday you celebrate. As I mentioned, Christmas and Hanukkah were on the same day this year, so that was awesome. And it was great for me to get away, to come back now, to work on what I've been working on for the past little while has been also great. Wish everyone a happy new year. Um, I know that Uh, again, we talked about Mike Rinder. So, of course, his legacy, whether it's positive or negative in your light, just take that story that I told you as one of the positives that I learned, and go back and listen to that segment or section if you need be. But I do understand. And, obviously he passed away. And then anyone affected by the fires, just try to make some charitable donations. The last one here, can we do a whip around to buy Peter a shirt? I'm worried he might catch a chill. Is that I what? I need context, Irish Mart. I need context. But oh my gosh. Well, I appreciate everyone that's here. We've had a couple of my Mark Apostles, Shell, Irish, Power Lines, Huckleberry, everyone who's watching on the replay. Thank you so much. Again, a bit of a short one today. But oh, right, he never has a shirt on during these lives. That's true. That is very true. That is very true. But yeah, thank you again. Thank you to everyone who came live. Thank you to everyone who's on the replay. And 2025, let's just keep on trucking, as they said in the 60s. Um, and yeah, and please look out by the end of the week, by Friday, I will have a poll. Please vote on my poll, which is on my community tab, for what you would like me to speak about next week. And then the week after, I think I'm going to do a history, possibly pop culture, depending on how I feel like, but I'm aiming towards a history. And who knows, I might even throw a poll up there because I've got a lot of ideas. And I think it would be fun to test to see what my audience wants. So just look out my community tab in the next couple of days, at least by Friday, for those two polls. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever else you celebrated out there. A Happy New Year, a Happy 2025. And of course, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.